Wagwan everyone, my name is Kunchi, this is Cooking with Kunchi, and today I'm going to show you guys how to break down a full stand-in rib roast loin into your own prime rib roasts. I'm also going to remove the backbones for beef back ribs. Now, you can also do this with steaks. I do have a short that I showed how I did a whole one into steaks as well. I'm going to make sure I link that down in the description below. Make sure you guys follow us. Stay tuned. And thank y'all for watching, man. Now, very important when you're trying to break down big cuts, you are going to need a butcher knife. This is the Dalstrong breaking knife. This is one of the Shadow Black series. You don't have to get this specific knife. You also need a fillet knife or a boning knife for the finer cuts. Both of these knives are going to be specifically in my knife list. So you can go down, the knife list is going to be down in the description below, and you can go and check these two knives out. We are going to get started with that. Our knives are ready. I want to shout out Lavalock for providing me these gloves for this video. The link is going to be down in the description, so make sure you go check out Lavalock, and any Lavalock product that you buy using my direct links using code Kunchi, you will get 10% off your order. All right, that's from the Lavalock website. We're going to be using the thick mill Lavalock gloves, and you guys will get to watch that. Today I'm going to be using my cut glove, and you want that on your non-cutting hand, right? You want that to be on the hand where your knife is potentially going to go towards. I do like these thicker mill gloves from Lavalock. Really solid. When I'm breaking down rib roast like this, I'm typically going to start on the back where the ribs are. And this is just because I don't want to put a gash in the meat side, so I don't care if there's a gash in the bones. Making this cut up here allows us to make sure that we have a bag to work with. All right. So we're going to make sure we drain off most of that meat juice here in this bag. And this is a choice roast. It's not prime. And even though it's called prime rib is really because this is one of the prime cuts on the cow. Okay? That's where colloquially why it is called, you know, among butchers and meat departments, prime rib. You never heard somebody say, oh, we're just going to cook a Wagyu rib, right? Or a select rib. It's always called the prime rib because it doesn't matter what grade, the rib loin, the ribeye, and this is where the ribeyes come from, is going to be the prime cut of the meat. All right, so you guys can check this out. You can see this is straight from the butcher. It's got a ton of silver skin on top here. It's got this huge fat tail that we're gonna trim down most of it. And then we have the bones, which this is the beef back ribs. So we're gonna remove this. We can cook the beef back ribs separate. If you don't wanna cook the beef back ribs separate, then you can always have bone-in rib roast. We're gonna get, I think, about 3 roasts out of this. 1 3-bone and 2 2-bones. Okay? Because there are 7. So when we're trimming this up, I'm gonna start on this side. The trick is to get your knife underneath the silver skin, not too far. You don't want to go too deep into the meat. And then we're gonna start working that silver skin off. trying to trim up anything that's unsightly. We don't really want any of this stuff. And you can definitely save these trimmings to make beef tallow if that's something that you do. This side, we're gonna just kind of shape this here. Now, if you wanted to French the bone, this is where you would go down and just remove this whole thing. I'm not gonna focus on Frenching the bone because I'm gonna remove the bone. Okay. So when you want to remove the bone, you can see on the side here where there is that little fat separation on it. Okay. And even on the top right here, you can see it's all along the bone. So we're just going to follow the natural seam. And what's good about cutting your own beef back ribs off is that you can leave as much meat or you can remove as much meat as you want. I like to have a little bit of meat on there. My steaks are going to be plenty thick, or my roasts. So we're good. You guys are just following the natural seam right here. Okay. Sharp knives, really, really important. And then now you're just going to ride the bone. All right. And make sure you go around the bones as close as you can to the bone. Tons of marbling. You see that beautiful meat right there? So now we have a rack of beef back ribs, and this is one separate dinner. If I keep the bones on these individual roasts, I'm not going to be able to utilize this bone as much. Yes, people will tell you that the bone is flavored. No, it's not. The only way you're gonna get flavor from the bone is if you actually use it. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna smoke this like ribs. I typically treat it like how I would treat spare ribs. Smoke it low and slow, wrap it up, get it tender, and then that's dinner. All right. And then I have enough meat on here where it's gonna make sense. I find that when I get it already cut from the store, there's not enough meat on it, and then I don't really enjoy it as much, but doing it at home I do. All right, so here's our roast. And like I said, when I make the roasts, then I'm going to figure out how much fat I want to cut off the tail. So now it's going to be time for the big boy knife. And guys, I'm sure the boning knife alone could do this, but I'm not comfortable using just this knife to do everything, but I'm comfortable enough to use just the boning knife to do everything. All right, so we want 3 roasts. I'm thinking one about here. And one about here. We're gonna go So this is our first roast. Right, when we're cooking this one, we can tie it up, and so it keeps its shape really nice. This side is really ugly, so we're gonna, what they call, face it up. You don't need to do too much to this, just now this right here is some good stir-fry meat. Definitely gonna use that. So here we have small roast. All right, beautiful. Meat looks good. And then these two up here are gonna be two bigger roasts. There you have the second one. Now I haven't had breakfast yet, so I'm gonna just sear this up in the pan with some eggs. That's gonna be my breakfast. All right. Now, like I was telling you guys, this big old fat tail on here, on this steak, doesn't really make sense, right? So we're gonna cut most of this thing off right here, and then we're just gonna have a nice roast. Okay, so I can cut off some more of this meat here. But this is now a beautiful roast, okay? Boneless. When we're cooking these, we're gonna tie them up so that they stay together. But you guys can see decent marbling on this. But also it is a ribeye, so it's gonna be fine. All right, so a little bit of a fat cap. We got that fat on the inside, good marbling. This is gonna be fine. Now there is this piece on the front here that is super chewy, gristly. We don't want that on it, so to really thin. That's trash. I'm not gonna eat that. Alright, so you guys saw that I used the butcher knife to do that piece. And you can see I can use the boning knife to remove that right there. Okay? Beautiful. Of course. So guys, this is how easy this is to put together at home as long as you have a couple knives. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to vacuum seal these, put them in the freezer. Today I'm going to cook these, so I'm going to show you guys how I prep and cook my prime rib. I don't know. Could probably cook this one. All right, we'll figure it out in a little bit. So this right here is gonna be for my breakfast, some steak and eggs. And this is what we've ended up with from the whole rib roast. We have 3 smaller rib roasts that are gonna be enough for my family and for neighbors as well. And then we're gonna have 1 rack of beef back ribs. Got a little bit of stir fry meat to make some breakfast with. So now that the trimming up of the prime rib is done, I'm going to prep this rib roast here, and this is what we're gonna have for dinner today. So I'm gonna show you guys how I do this whole process. Stay tuned. So right now I'm going to vacuum seal the meat that I'm not going to be cooking today and put those in the freezer. And I do have my Vevor vacuum seal, so if you guys want to check this vacuum seal out for your home use, you can go ahead and look in the description for that link. I prefer to vacuum seal because that way my meat stays fresher. Of course, you don't have to if you have freezer bags like Ziploc bags. That'll work as well. A little bit too much bag, but what the hell? So we got beef back ribs that we're going to be able to cook at a later date. Now these are going to go in the freezer and they are sealed so they can stay a while. And this is how you save money. So there's times when you feel like you want to have a ribeye or you want to have a rib roast, and that's how this is going to come in handy. Now this is the roast that I'm going to be cooking today, and I'm going to show you guys how we do this. I will tie it up with some butcher's twine before I put it in the smoker. But here I have my homemade salt, pepper, onion, garlic rub. It's got really coarse pepper. I grind the pepper myself. And it's kosher salt. I will type the ratio for my SPG rub in the description so you guys can see it. And remember guys, this is a thick piece of meat, so don't be shy. And again, like usual, no binder. And this is gonna sit in the refrigerator for about 6 hours until we are ready to cook dinner. That's plenty of time to dry brine this roast right here. If you guys want to read more about the dry brining process and what it does, I do have an article up on my website. You can go ahead and check that out. There you have it. All we have on this is some SPG, and we're gonna put this in the refrigerator to chill out for a couple hours. We'll let it sit out of the refrigerator for 1 hour to come up to room temp. This will ensure even cooking. Make sure you guys stay tuned for the rest of this cook. So today I'm going to use the offset to make this roast. So we have our firebox. I have a basket inside the firebox there, and we just have the coals to one side, one split right there. So we're gonna fire that up with the torch. We also have this grill outfitted with the baffle plate from Lava-Lock. This is the one for the Longhorn reverse flow smoker. If you want to get that baffle plate to even out your heat across your cook chamber, make sure you hit up the link in the description. There's also a 10% off if you use code Kunji. We got some coals lit up, and now we're gonna put a couple more small splits right here. That's gonna be our fire, so we're gonna leave that open and let that catch on fire for a little bit. So after a little bit of patience, your fire is blazing. We're gonna shut this down and let that smoke clean up and let that grill come up to the temp we want. So my prime rib is out of the refrigerator. It's been sitting out room temperature for about an hour and 15 minutes. We are ready to go on the smoker. Today we're going to be cooking with the Inkbird, and this one is their wireless thermometer. I'm going to put a link to the TikTok shop link for it if you want to go get that. I'll also drop an Amazon link for it, but we're going to see how this thing goes. And we want beef. And we're trying to cook this to rare because what I'm going to do is slice and then sear. All right, and so 120 degrees. I'm going to turn on the early warning because I think 110, I'll put it out, let it rest. Let's go, baby. We're running with clean smoke right now. Our fire is running really good, and on the side closest to the firebox we are reading just about 250. Let's go, baby. So as part of this video, I'm going to show you guys how and when I add splits to the offset. All right, so we can see that they're running fairly evenly. I want to maintain between 225 and 250. I see right now that it's dropping below 250, but when it gets closer to 225, that's when I'm going to add a split. All right, so pay attention for that. And then on here, we're going to add 2 of these splits because these are smaller. So we're going to add 2 of these, and then that should bring me back up to 250 or just above. So now it's time to add a split. We're going to move these off. And the reason why I have these splits heating up here is because when I add them to my fire, they're going to ignite quicker because at this point they're primed. They're going to ignite quicker and then less chance of dirty smoke on my food. I want my smoker to be running ultra clean. All right, so we're going to add these 2 splits. And you guys can see how small my fire is. And then you can see that the second I drop that wood on there, it's starting to blaze. So we don't have to wait for it to clear up. We know our fire is going to be good. We can now go ahead and shut it down. And as you guys can see, everything is continuing and there is no dirty smoke. All right, so close to 225. This temp is starting to come back up, and that's basically what we want. I don't want to drop below 225 at all. Now guys, if you have more questions or you want more information about fire management, go check out my book. It is linked in the description. It is called Wrangling Fire. On Amazon, you can get it in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle. So my meat is up to the temp that I want. It is actually rare. So what I'm going to do right now, we're going to pull this off and then we are going to start searing. So stay tuned. So right now what we're going to do, we have the griddle screaming hot. We're going to hit it with some beef tallow because we want to get a really nice sear on these cuts of the prime rib here. Wet dog. My hand is wet from the juice. So, smoked, then seared. Thank you guys for watching this entire video today. Make sure you check out the links in the description for everything that we use. Hit that subscribe button.